waste continues to challenge sustainability in food service systems, how biofortification can be a powerful tool to combat hunger and improve nutritional security. And we even ventured into unconventional food sources by understanding the nutritional and ecological aspects of jellyfish as an emerging food ingredient. Today promises to be equally engaging as we continue our journey toward more sustainable and resilient food systems. We have three exciting sessions lined up for you. Our first lecture will open a fascinating discussion on insects as food, exploring their nutritional value, environmental advantages, and the possibilities of integrating them into our food systems. The second lecture will take us into the world of Salicornia species, where we will learn about their nutritional potential and their role as natural salt substitutes in promoting healthier diets and sustainable agriculture. Finally, the day will conclude with a tutorial session titled Classroom Discussion on Food Waste and Public Health. How relevant is the food industry? Which, which, which will encourage reflection and debate on the responsibilities of the food industry in tackling waste and promoting public well-being. With that, let's move ahead and invite Dr. Antonio Rapso to begin the first lecture of the day on insects as food. Over to you, sir.
Oh, okay. So, good morning. I would like to welcome you to this fourth day of our course, and we will continue in this interesting topic, that is the development of new foods, and discuss about new alternatives that we have for people to introduce this kind of foods in their daily lives, their daily diet. So now we will talk a little and discuss about the possibility of the inclusion of insects as foods in many countries, many regions. This is not new. This is not a novelty. I don't know how it is here in India, but I know that in several Asian countries and also in Africa, Central America, they have this custom, this habit of consume insects as foods for years and years ago. So we will see, especially in Western societies in Europe, that how is the willingness and the perspective of the populations to see how they are available, they are prepared to even try taste the inclusion of these insects in their diets. So, first, I would like to talk about food neophobia. This is the terminology I have already talked to you yesterday when we were talking about the jellyfish as food. Because first of all, it is important to evaluate, to assess how that community, how that population can be more or less neophobic, more or less prepared to try to accept the inclusion of something that is strange, that is not common in their diet, to see that foods, and prepared to include it in the diet. So, the food neurophobia and its association with food behavior and choices. And we have three types of consumers can be classified according to behavior and novel food rejection. We have the neophobic ones that tend to reject unfamiliar foods, and you have the neophilic, the called neophilic, that are more tend to accept these unfamiliar foods, as are the example of jellyfish and also the insects. And then you have the neutral that are in the middle of these two categories. So food neophobia has been repeatedly measured using a scale, the food neophobia scale. It was initially developed by these two researchers, Pliner and Ogden, in 1992. too. The food neophobia can be influenced by some factors, of course, and the most remarkable ones are the age, the fact that people are living in the urban cities or in rural areas, the gender, the education, and the income, and the culture. So there is a much broader food selection today than several decades ago, due to globalization, easier transport of these goods and this food. So today we have more options to make the election of our foods to be incorporated in our diets. In general, younger people have been exposed at early age to exotic foods compared to older people. Positive relationship between age and food neophobia is also expected. In the urban areas, in cities, food availability is much broader compared to the rural areas, especially in some specific regions, in some specific countries. The people in rural areas may be less exposed to this, so and may have higher level of food phobia. It is expected, not a rule, but it is more probable. The results suggest that in this case, Lebanese college students have higher food neophobia scores compared with American college students, and that Swedes are more willing to try novel foods compared to Americans or Finns, the people that live in the north of Europe. So neophobia decreases as education increases and as income increases. We can find this relation in several investigations, and the effective gender on phobia is still unclear. In some cases, we have men that show less neophobic values, and in the others are dominant. So this is not very clear. This relationship between the food neophobia and gender. And this is the main reasons for people to be neophobic. The trust, the danger, aversion, disgust, trade, state, good taste. But of course, they can be more. This is very personal. What motivates you to try or not to try a new food product? So, since neophobia can influence preferences toward novel foods, understanding its potential impact on consumers' food selections has always been an important issue for food product developers and marketers. So insects, also called as entomophagy. So we have worldwide about more than 100 countries, 113 countries all over the world that practices this. So eat insects and see these insects as food. We have more than 2,000 insect species, and they are divided, of course, into different organs, and they have the potential to contribute to the world's food security, as same as jellyfish. If we can use some of this to be incorporated in our diets and substitute some of the main products used nowadays, so we are contributing also for this food security, and we are able to feed up a lot of people in the world. Here we can talk about some nutritional benefits, and that is their high energy and protein content, a good amino acid and fatty acid profiles, and also rich in some minerals like copper, iron, magnesium, manganese, phosphorus, selenium, and zinc, just to mention some of them. Of course, this will vary. And according by the insect species, we have what range of insect species that can be used as foods, and of course we have to analyze and compare then species by species. They can also be a sustainable source of food once waste biodegradation as pollinators in plant reproduction, high feed conversion efficiency. The production is less land dependent than conventional livestock. Then I will show you a figure that represents and shows this very well. Produce less greenhouse gases in its consequence, of course, and use significantly less water than the conventional livestock. So here we have a table with a comparison between some examples of insects, and we can find interesting values that I would like to highlight here. For example, regarding to the fat composition, the short fat acids, the monounsaturated fatty acids, and the polyunsaturated fatty acids, and also some of the minerals I mentioned earlier. But attention that we have also some species with a relevant content of sodium. Okay, so you have to see species by species, and they have different compositions, like the foods we are more accustomed to work. So, the acceptance in Western societies. Most consumers in this side of the world are still not keen on eating insects, and the reasons are various. So, since the perceived dangerousness, because we associate insects to dirt, to diseases, so they are kind of vehicles of diseases, of infestations, of contamination. So it is strange, at least for our society in the West, and because also we never consume them, to now a kind of people to say we must start to introduce these insects in our recipes, in our foods. So it is quite strange, believe me, at least in the West, in the Western Europe. So, and then of course the negative taste expectations, people that never try, but simply don't believe that these preparations will have a good taste. The low levels of expected enjoyment, uncertainty about the origin, and the disgust. So, informing people about the nutritive and environmental benefits of insect consumption has proven insufficient to convince various consumer groups to accept insects as a new food source. And I think this is easy to understand. It can be very sustainable. It can be very good for the planet. They can be very nutritive, but that I don't care about that. I don't want. So the negative aspects related to them are heavier than this positive that we can talk to the picture. And then of course it will depend on the populations we are trying to introduce them. As I mentioned yesterday, for example, in Portugal, it is not so strange to try to introduce some new food product that come from the sea. We are more accustomed to eat fish, to eat fish products, than a new food product that comes from the land, like the example of insects. Perhaps in other societies, in other countries, it is not so difficult. But there, and we have some research groups, some people that were trying to innovate and to make some dishes with insects and explain their benefits, everything regarding the nutritional profile, the healthy benefits, the sustainability benefits. But people don't want to even to try these food products or see it or see these products as food. And then we have the mass production of insects that can be expensive because this is not you cannot eat the insects, catching them from the nature and then simply eat them. No, they have of course to follow all the food legislation, and their mass production can be can be high. You have here the examples of some of these food products, for example, sold in Netherlands, and we have 50 grams of freeze-dried mealworms that are sold for about €5, and we need to add the shipping costs. The develop, rearing and harvest, as well as the post-harvest processing technology and the safety of monitoring for automation of insect production. This can have high costs. So the information concerning the cross-border trade, economic importance, or food safety aspects of their processed products remains quite limited. We should know that not all of the insect species are considered safe to eat. There may be some allergic reactions. We have now seen published a lot of studies regarding to this, the potential allergic reactions to the insect proteins. Of course, there can be favorable conditions for microbial growth, so we have to pay attention for the microbial contamination of these products. Here we have some examples of contamination in freshly harvested insect products with Escherichia coli and Klebsiella aerogenes, and some microorganisms related from the gut. The domestic housefly are these ones that can be also harmful for people. The Staphylococcus aureus, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Aspergillus tamari, and Bacillus cereus. So they can be also, if they are not controlled their production, these hazards can also affect the insects and become a potential health threat. Here we have one more table with some with approximate composition of some selected traditional insects, in this case from Africa, and we can easily see that their content in protein is very interesting. And also here in this table we don't have the relation of the monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids, but they have very interesting content on this. So here you have some protein content of some insect classes and the number of specific insect species compared to beef and pork. And by analyzing this, we see that we are in presence of perhaps a good substitute. Of course, then we should analyze also how is the digestion and availability of this kind of protein, but just comparing with the content on the dry weight basis, you see that we have some examples with a good protein content, especially these first three classes: Orthoptera, Lepidoptera, and Coloptera. If you compare directly with the last two charts that are related with beef and pork. This is the essential amino acids for insect species, also compared with the recommendations. This chart in black is the recommendations, and we can also see that they are very close. In yellow, we have the Bombay locust, the red, the scarlet beetle. In blue, we have the house cricket, and green, the mulberry silkworm. This is different insect species that are used as foods. And then if we see very 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 close, even in someone's higher than the recommendations of this amino acid intakes from World Health Organization than those observed in fish or chicken, and more polyunsaturated fatty acids like linolenic and linoleic acids are present. So I think this analysis is often deficient in developing countries, especially in these areas of Africa where we have deficits in minerals and in iron and zinc. So this can be a good way of a fight against these deficiencies. The vitamin content, apart of containing large amount of minerals, they can be also an interesting source of vitamins. For example, vitamin A, vitamin B group 2, and ascorbic acid, vitamin C. It is also noteworthy, however, that some complementary foods have been formulated with termites as one of the fortificants used for Kenyan infants. Okay, we have also formulated products to be served to infants with the inclusion of insect protein and complementary food developed by including these edible insects as ingredients for formulation was well liked by both infants and the mothers. So, and this study was carried out in Africa, in a special region that their needs regarding this are very, very, very crucial. And this is the image that I talked to you. We have here the resource use and environment impact parameters of insect farming against or versus other livestock. And we can see the relevant differences, the huge difference, I say, between what we need to produce beef, pork, chicken, compared with cricket. We can see, for example, the liters per grain of protein produced. We can see that, for example, in beef we have more than 100 liters of water that we need, and in cricket 2 liters. So this is a huge difference, and this is what we are not wasting of so important resource we have, and we don't have in too much quantity, that is water, to produce protein from cricket. And even for chicken, that is the more close to cricket, we have 34 liters of water we need to produce the chicken protein, compared with the insect, in this case the cricket. And this is the same when we compare the greenhouse gas emissions, the CO2 equivalents that are that are spent in the production of these different kinds of protein, the milligrams per kilograms of mass we gain, the kilogram mass gain, and the digestible weight. So these differences are very, very huge. And of course, if we can incorporate these insects as foods, these insects protein in substitution to other ones we are more used to in our daily diets, in our day to day. So we are also being sustainable and preserving our planet. The allergenic potentials. Yes, we have some studies that alert for this fact. Allergic reactions to shellfish, to fish, to meat. It may be people that have some kind of allergic to insects. And of course, when we are talking about new foods, and that we must assure these new food products are innocuous to the people, apart of being nutritious or taste good. The food safety must be assured. So it is very important to carry out studies to see the allergic potential of these new species that are incorporated in the diet of people. And here in Asia, Africa, are generally harvested from the wild, but semi-domestication and farming are also becoming more and more common. This is some examples of some countries where we have wild harvesting, semi-domestication, and farming. In Europe, while some companies are doing, it's farming special and defined species of insects, and to be prepared, and all of their rearing is monitored and controlled to be then sold as food products. And of course, they must accomplish with all the rules of food legislation. So, but of course, in some other places, we may have also the wild harvesting and also the semi domestication. what can we conclude from this? That product development requires detailed knowledge of the products and the customers. Very important to know the profile not only of the products but the potential consumers, the potential customers, which is why quantitative and qualitative marketing studies must be carried out before launching any product on the market. This is very relevant for every company, for everyone who wants to introduce something new in the market. To know the needs of that population, what that population is looking for, what that population are accustomed to. So see if my new product, in this case new food product, is within the expectations of that population, and how far I am from the expectations. Of course, it will be more difficult and harder to get the acceptance or even the willingness to try of that product. So, while consumer research and marketing have paid special attention to those interested in new products, food products, with concepts such as lead user, relatively little attention has been paid to the neophobic consumer. The consumer, of course, that is not willing to try these new foods, and the potential impact on the guidance provided from consumer testing to developers during the new product development process. In purchase decisions involving novel foods, consumers who are more reluctant to try novel foods project more of their own personal values through the attributes of the product, which takes them to a higher degree of abstraction. Overall, irrespective of neophobia levels, consumers adopt innovative food products for hedonic reasons: the taste, the enjoyment of pleasure, or pleasure it provides, or for its easy preparation. This is very important nowadays. The way we have or we need to prepare that product, because people in most of the society don't have time. They live their life very busy. They start very early in the morning, arrive at home in the night, and prepare all the things for next day. So this is an important aspect. Of course, the nutritional value and the health benefits and quality, and for the enhancement of their quality of life and security, and because it enables them to eat well. So this indicates the need to analyze the cognitive structure of consumers for each specific innovation that arises in the market, in order to establish the communication and positioning strategies most appropriate in each case. And the insect rearing and processing are still in their first stages, we can call infant stages, in many European countries. Notwithstanding, there are signs that the consumption of insect-based food is making its way to Europe and will likely become more acceptable in future. But of course, this will take time. I don't know, but we started to talk about insects as foods, at least in Europe, with more impact. Shops in the market, very few we see, and the time is important. This is not from one day to the other. It takes time, and the European legislation was also adapted. A lot of research was necessary and was done in this way, and then you have the people's willingness to try this, to incorporate these insect-based products in their diets. In recent years, many insects have been shown to possess very good nutritional profiles that is unquestionable, and are thus a good alternative to other protein origins. Due to the nutritional quality of most of these edible insects, they will cut greenhouse gas emissions and be ecologically relevant when widely consumed as a source of protein, and of course when they will replace other sources of protein that the most of the people are used to consume. In recent years, many insects have been shown to possess these good nutritional profiles. So, what can we say about this? It is important then only to not only to study the nutritional content, but other type of studies that are carried out is regarding the availability, the absorption, and disaster of this of this element. So this is also very important to do. The next crucial step will be how to ensure that food derived from insects are safe and placed on the market legally. And this is what we have done at this moment, that we are still making, and it is regarding the legislation. In view of malnutrition and food shortage, insect rearing may offer a new source of sustainable food. I think this is clear. And indigenous traditional knowledge associated with wild harvesting and local insect consumption, especially in the continents of Africa and Asia, will complement scientific knowledge that is necessary to boost the supply of insects through large-scale farming. So this is also relevant. Don't think is the local production. Another thing is that people will widely consume these insect-based products, and we will need to produce them at a large scale. So this is what I have to discuss with you. Now, please let me know your thoughts, let me know your opinion, and any question, please. This is very related with the topic we have discussed yesterday. Here we are talking about insects. Yesterday we talked about the jellyfish, but we can find here some common aspects, since both of them are quite new, especially for Western societies, for European countries. I don't know if you here in India have the traditional consumption of insects. Please let me know also your experience. Perhaps in some regions, others not so implemented. So let me know. Do you often consume insects in your
No, sir.
no, but no, not here, or not in all the country you have not that
In India, I think only northeast part, that too few states in northeast part consume insects like grasshoppers, worms and all. Not rest of north and south they don't.
okay.
Even in India, like in south part, aquatic animals, even if we talk about aquatic, we eat prawns, crabs and all. That are not even that are accepted in north side. So how can they accept insects?
And you are a question I have to you. You are more willingness to try insects, or, for example, jellyfish? If I make this question to you, if you have to choose one of these, you are more able to
Not
try
insects maybe.
not insects. Interesting. The same for all of you. You would prefer to try jellyfish than insects, or someone perhaps would prefer
Because
to
even like in my
some
class
reasons.
also, when I was in UG or in masters also, whenever I talk about prawns or crabs, they used to say like, do you eat crabs? Even crabs. We're like, yeah, it's tasty. We're like, oh no. So I don't think so. Insects, even in South, we don't accept insects. So I don't think so. In India, it's possible.
Yes, that will depends a lot of the habits of the culture. This is also psychological question we have here, and sometimes people never tried some kind of food, an insect, whatever, a crab, but one time for one special reason decide to try. Okay, let's try, and some of that people say, "Oh, this is good." A lot of years that I that I lost the opportunity, and that is a problem because the people are not keen to try. You never know if you like the taste or no. Forget the nutritional, the healthy, all of that issues. Only the possibility of to experiment, to try that new thing. If you don't try, you can say I don't, I don't like, and that occurs with a lot of people that never tried. And one day, because someone could convince he or she to try, and find that this is not so bad as I was thinking. That can happen, and there are some people that find some similarities in the taste of some of these insects with, for example, chicken meat. I know people that this grasshopper, this melon, the taste is quite, of course, the texture, everything is different, but find some similarities with other
That
foods that
similarity
are
question will occur only if they try, but they are not even willing to imagine those things.
yes,
Trying out.
yes. But the mind has an important role on this, because this first study we should take to see how neophobic or not are the population is very important, and this is to evaluate also the psychological structure of the person, to see how familiar or not, how keen or not is that the population to try that new thing, that new food in the life. So that is very important, and this varies from society to society, and this is dependent from the cultures, from the knowledge, from what are people accustomed. If we are in a country that has the usage of consumer products from the land or from the sea, this is very relevant, and this will make difference in the time of people even try or not that that food, in this case insect-based food products.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So I'd just like to add on to that in the central region of India, mostly in the western area, from where I belong, the tribal people they try red ants. So it's like a puree. It's quite famous. So that's what I would like to let you know that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's very
Yes,
famous.
it occurs also in Africa and also in Central America, especially in rural. This is a very important source of food for those people, and they even rear the insects, and they even cook them. This is what can be strange for us or for Western society or people that live in the cities. For most or a huge large amount of people that live in rural areas, I believe that not only in India but in other Asian countries, and also in Africa and Central America. For example, in Mexico, they consume also a lot, but of course in the countryside, in the rural areas, it is an important way to feed up the people. And as we see, can every year with this example, this study that in Kenya, in this African country, they make formulations to the infants with fortified with the vitamin A, with some important and other important minerals, to give the population with insect-based products. So this can be relevant, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
sharing. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, like you were saying, there are a lot of areas in the northeast where this is very common and very traditionally eaten insect food.
Here in India, in the north,
Yes, in the northeast.
northeast.
Northeast, they in fact they take it as a delicacy. Like they even make
As
this
a delicacy, they see as a delicacy, or because it is a need. That is important also. That's a good point.
So
Or both.
I'm not an expert, but in some tribal areas they you make laddus of insects and they use it during festivals. And it's
Oh,
also
interesting.
expensive in that relative
Yes,
their
yes.
rates. So it's considered very special.
Yes,
a
that
special
is a good
dish.
point, because one thing, for example, jellyfish is more seen as a delicacy, and not so as to accomplish the needs of the people. And here, instance, I can see them not only as a delicacy, of course, it may be as you state now, but with if we can stabilize and mass production, and we can arrive to an ended product with a good price and with possibilities to feed up a large amount of people. The problem is that people will accept the introduction of these insect-based products in their diets. But that is an interesting point you touched. the fact that also can be seen also as the delicacy, perhaps some species, perhaps some ways of preparation that can differ from the common way of preparation of the preparation in the daily life, or just in special occasions, and has that connotation with the delicacy, add value food products.
So my
Yes.
question is also, how is there any scale or questionnaire that you would suggest to assess the cognitive structure of the consumers, and where you had mentioned where the consumers
Regarding
project.
these neophobic scales, the questionnaire, yes, there are validated questionnaires, and then we have validated questions, for example, for the Spanish population, and some adaptations to the Portuguese population. And then, of course, if you want to use this, for example, here in India, I don't know, I'm not sure if there are any validated published paper that validated this scale for the Indian population. That would be interesting. I don't know, perhaps there is. And yes, that is public. Yes, the food neophobic scale is published and in diverse languages. And for the Indian, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it is already validated, but if not, it can be an interesting work to do.
So if it's possible later, if you could share that and see if
Yes,
and
yes. I don't know if they will have access to the presentations at the end of the course. Yes, to the yes, they have access to the slideshow, or no? Yes, do you do? Yes. Oh, thank you. There you have the references, but I can share the paper and where the scales are published. I can share with you. No problem, of course. If not, please remember me. But today I will send to Dr. Tespa. Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So my question is, how close are we to seeing insect-based products being widely accepted or sold in European or Western countries?
In European restaurants.
European countries and Western countries.
In European countries. So that is, for example, in my country there is a problem. They are not very well accepted. That is one of the biggest problems in some European countries, because we are very far to see insects as food, and not even in the rural areas. We have other sources of protein, other sources of and the insects are very very bad seen because they are related with dirt, with diseases, contamination. So you go to even in rural areas of Portugal and even Spain, France, tell people, especially even older people, now you will try this fantastic bread made up with insect flour. People will say, you are mad, I will not try this. Not at all. I don't care if it is healthy nutrition. No, that is a very difficult challenge for European countries, and especially for Portuguese people, for Portugal, that I know better, of course. It is very difficult. Of course, if you are in a country that some parts of that population, or even some tribal, some rural people already consume some kind of that product, perhaps it is easier. We can um, we can show to the others that if some of our populations already do it, why not even try? But in Europe, it's not so easy. People can try, but perhaps younger people, that other people that see in the world in a global perspective, or want to try just to see, that you can say are open-minded. But if we go to, especially to rural areas, and to older people, older, not very older, but people, adult people, it is complicated to convince them to try, not to incorporate in the diet. We are not on that step. Just to try. People will not want to try. Why I will eat this, and why and not fish, and not chicken, and not pork, and not beef? Why? Why is the reason? and you say, oh, it's sustainability. This is not for their specific needs. They don't care about that sustainability. I will not start treat insects for the sustainability. They must see some specific and positive effect to do that. And insects are very, very bad connoted in Europe. And some research groups have started to study and verify formulations to incorporate them in the diet and new foods, but when say to the most of the population, this is an insect-based food product. A large amount of people, especially the adult and older, don't want. That is a great challenge, especially for us in Europe. I believe here in Asia, in African countries, maybe in America, can be easier to go further behind this step. Yes, yes.
So
Thank
if
you for
it's
your
not
question.
so common in Europe, then what brought you to this research?
It is not so common, but that is the challenge. We should find some strategies and some way. Of course, I don't want from one day to other to make people change their routines and their habits and to start to eating this. But if I can do that, some parts of the population, of some people, start to incorporate, start to taste, I think that is a good point. Because if you see, special from the sustainability point of view, it is a huge difference. It is a huge difference for our planet to keep producing livestock or start to produce insects, even at a mass production scale. But of course, it's not easy. That's true.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, sir, what could be the impact of large-scale insect farming on preserving biodiversity and preventing overexploitation of wild insects?
What?
What could be the impact of large-scale insect farming on preserving biodiversity and preventing overexploitation of wild insects?
No, that will depends the total amount on the quantity of insects we would like to produce and the conditions we will need to produce that that rearing of insects. Of course, the idea is like jellyfish. We don't want to put a specific species in danger. We have to find strategies to preserve their habitats, of course, and then like the aquaculture in fish, we should find some special conditions to farm these insects, and of course that farm and that rearing those insects accomplish with all the requirements that are in the legislation. We are also working on that field to harmonize the legislation because not so many years ago insects couldn't be sold as food in Europe. That was not allowed because they are not in the food legislation considered as food. So lot of essays, lot of experiments, and of course lot of time we need until all of this is harmonized. The context in Europe, I believe it is quite different from other continents because we have no experience with insects as food. It's like I arrive here and say you to eat something that you and no, not of you, not of no parts of your population eat that. So to start, we have to make a lot of evaluations, toxicological evaluations, safety evaluations, and this takes time.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
In some parts of India, like Nagaland, East India, uh, they eat insect like ant. By this, they eat ant.
And yes.
By this, the gut health will impact. And what's your point of view on that? If we eat ant as a diet, because they eat as a chutney, as a ant chutney.
What is my opinion? Sincerely, from month I don't know. I didn't study what happened.
Because it can affect the gut totally if we eat that. Still, people eating that.
I don't know. I have no idea. Sincerely, I don't know if anyone knows about this. But for example, ant is something that I didn't study. I don't know the effects of eating. Of course, this and special and when it is quite new, maybe some interactions, of course, with our organism, positive or negative. But of course, we must study. I have no idea what is the impact. I don't know if is that your question of eating ants, eating that insect on our health. And sincerely, I don't know. It can be positive, of course, but this this needs to be studied, and this is an important part of the thing. If you see also research on this topic is quite new, and now we have hundreds and hundreds of papers related with insects as foods. I think we have also a journal, a specialized journal regarding this journal of insects as food. I think it's the name or something like that. This is quite new, but with few years. And if we see a lot of papers are being published, and it is important to us to be actualized. Yes, but since we and I don't know. I don't know if anyone here have already heard about that or know something more and want to share.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, what I believe is that the trends of consuming insects it mainly arise due to the war situations which happened in this eastern region. Like for example, when we talk about Vietnam, Thailand,
Yes.
or like Taiwan. So, like due to scarcity of protein sources, was that the reason that they started consuming insects as a protein source? What do you believe? Compared to the earlier era, and when we talk about this 100 years back, so the consumption of insects was, I think, which I believe was started this century ago.
Yes, in some of cases it's a need. It's not. It will depends the reason for society to society and for each period of history we are talking about. Of course, if there is a conflict, if there is a war, and this is the only thing that I have to eat, or to if I don't have livestock, if this is not a question of preference or substitution or replace this protein source for another. And if I only have this, and if this is good for my basic needs and physiological, and if this has protein, so if it works, why not? And those examples in some countries, this is not a question of preference. This is a question of even survival, or this is a question of this is the only thing I have to complete my requirements, my nutritional requirements. So it will be this or nothing, and we see that can be a good food that has a good source of proteins, and then we will study and see that the composition may be similar to other food sources, but of course, for some people, they do it because they don't have nothing. And those examples you stated out are cases like that.
Yeah, like because currently when I'm looking towards North Korea, so
North Korea.
when you talk about the podcast of those survivors who have fled towards South Korea and the China,
Yes,
so
yes.
mainly they'll be saying that we used to eat insects mainly as a source of food because we didn't get anything. Even in today's current situation.
Yes, yes, that's one
Yeah.
example. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank
Yes,
you,
that's
sir.
true. We have always to see the context we are, and of course it's different to talk about insect consumption in Europe or those examples you have just mentioned in the conflict countries, in very poor countries, and where the other resources are not available. It's very different. It's very different. If you have nothing to eat, of course, everything you see, you will you try to not to die because it's death or nothing. And if you will not, if I go to Europe and see to the people, you will have the opportunity to eat insects or nothing. Maybe it will take 1 day, 2 day, but in the third or fourth day, you try because otherwise you are in a state of anger that you can support more. So you try everything you have in your own. So the context is very important, of course. Thank you for sharing.
So I do have a question.
Okay.
I would like, as you talked about food neophobia and how it influences our choices. So, do you think exposure at an early age through education or school program can be helpful in removing the hesitation towards food neophobia?
Yes, thank you for that interesting question. Yes, that is also one point why is important the food education and to have food literacy in our population, and this must start very early in the school with children to learn how important it is to have or to include in the diet very range and variety of foods and to try everything. This is important, but of course, when we are talking about new foods, and these new foods are so bad seeing in our culture and connoted with diseases, with dirt. I repeat, it is always complicated. If we are talking about a new food, and I give the example of jellyfish that has not this connotation and comes from the sea, we usually consume everything or most of the things that come from the sea. It's quite different when we are talking about something that is always connected with something that is negative. But of course, I agree. I agree that it would be very important that this food literacy, food education, and start early in the schools and to teach children that perhaps in early ages have some aversions or problems in something, not only in schools but also in their homes, with the parents to educate children to have a diverse diet and to try everything. You can say I don't like, but to say I don't like, you should try. That is very important and a very relevant point. Thank you very much for your for your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
I agree. I agree.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, can you tell, is there any allergenic or microbial contamination in insect consumption?
Yes, it can be. Yes, it can be. We have a lot of studies. If you go to PubMed or Google Scholar, if you put the words allergic reaction, allergen, insect food, you and microbial contamination, of course, especially in those that are not reared in controlled conditions, you will find a lot of papers related to them because it's like fish or meat, and they are protein food, very high protein content food. So of course, man, and that is one of the points we have to study their potential organic value. Of course, you will find a lot of research in the last years about that. Yes, yes, you can find.
Thank you, sir.
And that is why you cannot or you shouldn't go outside and catch up a grasshopper and eat. Yes, of course, they are there. They can never be contaminated. Of course, microbial and other sources of contamination.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Sorry, good morning, sir. I want to ask, in your opinion, could insect consumption realistically become a sustainable global practice in the upcoming decade?
In a decade, I think it's a very huge challenge. I think that it seems a lot of time, but I think it's not. It depends. In some regions, perhaps it can be increased a lot in 10 years. But for example, I see it very difficult in the European context. I see that more products will emerge, more products will be in our shops, in our markets, and perhaps more people, especially young people, are more keen to try it. But what do you mean at the global scale? That we have people consuming more insects than pork than chicken? Are you saying that? Just to understand your question better. Yes?
As you said, its ease of preparation and nutritional value. Maybe we can replace it with
Yes, but that point of view, it's not the most important for the people. The people first don't see that, and it can be wonderful from the point of view of nutrition and nutritional healthy. All those things are very interesting for us, for researchers, for but people that are in their lives, and especially the adult population, older population, and they see insects not traditional of consumption and see and worse than that see insects connoted with dirt, with contamination, with diseases. They will not trust on you telling them this is healthy, this is nutritious, this is they will not want to hear you about that. So this is what I'm saying. What do you expect regarding that large scale consumption and production? Because in some countries that will be very difficult, and being honest, I don't see it very possible to substitute at least 100 or near to 100% the other sources of food. Insects, no. We can find other, I don't know, we are talking here insects, but of course we have other plant-based products, jellyfish, other, yes, but the specific case of insects and talking about my experience in my country in a European context, particularly, that will be a very complicated. Not 10, not 20, not 30 years. The world must change a lot to have, for example, people in my country eating more insects than pork or than chicken. That is a huge challenge.
are there any successful based food consumption as such? Any example of that?
Of success. The most successful products based on insects are, for example, cereal bars that we include them some kind of insect. For example, when you incorporate in the flour the insects and you prepare a kind of pasta or bread or cookies, those products has more success because, for example, if you fry grasshopper and people see in the plate in the dish the grasshopper or the melon or any insect, the people, that is a problem. They must be they must be even from the eyes of the people that will eat that is eating insect. Yes, but for most of the people, even if are eating a bread made up with flour of insect-based product, if I say no, the bread you are eating was prepared with a flour that it contains insect. And most of the people when knows that, oh, okay, thank you. I would prefer the other one with wet or corn or the thing. That is the main issue regarding the insect consumption. Insect consumption. And in these novel foods, we always say, of course, the nutritional properties, the healthy, that are very important for us because we study in the lab the nutritional content, the chemical composition, proximity, but that is not the main issue for the people. They will not hear you about all of those things. If you are trying, tell them to try something that she or he don't want simply like that. No, eat insects. You are crazy. I will not eat insects. I don't care about what you are talking about zinc, iron, vitamin, protein. I will not eat it. I'm good as I am, eating my chicken, eating my fish. I'm sorry, but I will not eat insects. You eat. That is what people say.
Thank you, sir.
And we have no examples near us in our neighbors of insect consumptions. The examples we have are in Africa, are in Asia, in different societies. So we have no rural areas in Europe that consume insects, and that can be a problem. For example, here in India, we have some regions that some part of the population eat it. In the America, the same. In Africa, the same. It's easier. You have that experience. It's easier to make some other parts of the population of the country at least try it. In Europe, we haven't that. And apart of not having that, you have a very bad connotation with insects. It is not neutral. It is a bad, bad vision of the insects. Now, from one day to the other, let's go to eat them. It's not so easy.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an engaging and eye-opening session. It was truly fascinating to learn how something as unusual as insects could hold such great promise for our food systems. Dr. Rapso helped us understood how food neophobia influences people's acceptance of novel foods and how factors such as age, culture, and education shape our willingness to try new food sources. He also explained the remarkable nutritional value of edible insects rich in protein, healthy fats, and essential minerals, and highlighted their role in reducing environmental impact compared to traditional rice tools. What really made the session stand out was how he connected science, culture, and consumer behavior, reminding us that change begins with awareness, but acceptance grows through trust and education. On that note, let's take a short tea break and carry forward these interesting thoughts in our conversations. Please be back on time as we have. Welcome back, everyone. Before we begin the next session, I would like to invite Ms. Sugandhi for the briefing of the previous lecture by Dr. Rapso.
Good morning to one and all present here. In the morning session, we discussed on a very interesting and emerging topic, insect as a food. The lecture highlights the concept of autophagy, which means the practice of eating insects, and discuss its potential role in ensuring the food security and sustainability. We begin by looking at the concept of food neophobia, which refers to the fear or the hesitation to try unsimilar foods. Study shows that consumers can be characterized as neophobic, neutral, neophilic, depending on its willingness to try new foods. Factors such as age, culture, education, and income play an important role in shaping these attitudes. Moving on to the insect consumption, over 2,000 insect species are eaten across more than 100 countries across the world. Insects are rich in protein, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals such as iron, zinc, and magnesium. They also serve as a sustainable food source, requiring less land, water, and feed compared to conventional livestock, while producing fewer greenhouse gases. However, in Western societies, insect-based food face challenges of acceptance due to factors like discussed perceived danger and the negative taste expectations. Despite being nutritionally and environmentally beneficial, many consumers are still hesitated to include the insects in their diet. The lecture also highlights the importance of ensuring food safety in insect consumption. Some insects may cause allergic reactions, microbial contamination if not properly processed. Hence, developing the safe rearing, harvesting, and processing technology is very crucial. From environmental perspective, the insect farming is far more effective. It has lower energy, water, and the land requirements, and generates the fewer emissions compared to the traditional livestock systems. Finally, we have concluded they emphasize that the while insect rearing and processing are still in their early stage in many parts of the world, there is growing recognition for their nutritional quality and ecological benefits as the world faces food shortage and malnutrition. Insects may become valuable, sustainable protein stores in the future. In the short, encourages us to look beyond traditional food sources and consider insect as a sustainable solution for the future of the global nutrition. Thank you, sir. It was a great learning experience, and we are grateful for your contribution. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Sugandhi, for the thoughtful recap. We now move on to the next lecture of the day, which will take us into another fascinating area of sustainable nutrition. This session will focus on Salicornia bigelovi, Salicornia brachyata, and Salicornia herbacea, exploring their nutritional characteristics and evaluating their potential as natural salt substitutes. These halophytic plants have attracted growing interest for their remarkable ability to thrive in saline environments, making them valuable for both sustainable agriculture and healthy diets. To lead us through this interesting topic, I once again invite Dr. Antonio Rapso to the stage to deliver his lecture. Dr. Rapso, the floor is yours.
Hello again. Let's start this second session of our day with this I think interesting topic. And what I've searched, I found that some of these species of Salicornia, I believe you are familiarized with them. We have here in India, and that is this particular species, Salicornia brachyata. So I think I don't know. You may tell me, but you are familiarized with this herb, maybe more than me and my fellows in Portugal, because just some few years ago we started to see in our markets the inclusion of these herbs. And why we are now trying to introduce this as the diets of people. The reason is easy to understand. They can serve as salt substitute, and as we have already talked in other sessions, have the habit of consuming a lot of salt, adding salt to the foods. So if you substitute that salt with the inclusion of these herbs, particularly Salicornia, that will be great, because Salicornia has that potential of provide a similar taste to salt to the foods, but of course without the inclusion of sodium chloride. So it has some other benefits, of course, regarding the nutritional and healthy properties that we will see in this presentation. So all around the world, Salicornia subspecies naturally exist on saline islands and coastal locations, including salt plans and salt marshes. Here we have some examples of different species. The first one was photographed in the U.S. coast, Windsor Lake in U.S., and is regarding the species of Salicornium mygalovi. And in the second image, the figure 2, we have the Salicornia brachyata. That is what I was mentioning. You have here in India this picture, this photograph was made in the region of Gujarat here in India. So I believe you are familiarized with it. And at third, we have this Salicornia herbacea, where we can find in France, where this picture was took out. So they feature among the most promising alophytes for commercial production because their wide-ranging resistance to climate and salinity conditions. It can be eaten fresh, fermented, cooked, dehydrated, or pickled as a seasoning, and since ancient times it has been extensively used in coastal regions of Asia, particularly as fermented food and seasoning. It is also employed in folk medicine to cure various ailments, including obesity, diabetes, constipation, and cancer. In addition to the hot cuisine, traditional cuisine is started to show an interest in using it as a salt alternative, as we have mentioned a few moments ago, but presently comes in a powdered form. This salicornia can be also works as a functional novel component for its significant nutritional value, including its mineral richness and fiber content. And research has also demonstrated that salicornia is an excellent source of bioactive substances, and a lot of research has been done in this sense, and finds some polysaccharides, phytosterols, and phenolic compounds, and also for cosmetical and nutraceutical industries, which all make it a crucial component of goods marketed to rapidly expand natural and organic markets. So, in addition to these uses, the seeds of salicornia are are utilized for extracting high quality edible oil. So some oil can be extracted from the seeds of this plant, and leftover plants are employed as forage. So, given its huge potential as crop in saline soil and their particular properties to resistance to this environment, so the corn is also a very acceptable plant that possesses a range of applications and is now considered to be one of the plants of the future. And we have in this slideshow a summary of a lot of potential applications of salicornia, not only as food and pharmacy, as special good source of flavonoids, mineral contents, and also vitamin A, carotenoids, retinol, but also, if you can see, as bioenergy to produce ethanol, and their oil extraction with solvents can extract oil for diverse utilization. We can use it also as aquaculture biofilter in the cosmetic industry. So some nanoparticles has been identified with very interesting antimicrobial effects. So a lot of potentials can be thinking and applications to the siliconia plant. Regarding the nutritional profile and the health impacts we can relate to this plant, I'd like to mention this research work into the mechanism and effect of the species of Salicornia megalovi and on the Sprague Dolls rats. This study carried out in rats. Blood pressure revealed that this edible salt induces hypertension, while the Sprague Dolly rats didn't. So this Sprague Dolly rats as a salt substitute the protective effect on the liver and kidneys and can improve the body's antioxidant ability to protect the liver and kidneys from high salt intake damage and prevent hypertension. This is quite interesting. Here you have the common geographical location of these three Salicornia species and their health benefits identified in the studies. We have the Salicornium bivalve collected from the lands of in Central and North America, USA, and Mexico, with the health benefits of protective effects against the cardiovascular diseases and hypertension. And you have this composition mainly of beta carotene and polyphenols, also sodium and chloride and potassium, some minerals. And you have the Salicornia herbacea from South Korea, also cultivated in South Korea, with the presence of glutamatic acid and quercetin, which brings protective effects on diabetes, hepatitis, and gastroenteritis. And finally, the Salicornium brachyate you can find here in India with high cysteine and methionine contents with these amino acids. We could identify some antioxidant effects and immune booster. So, Salicornia species are also unique for having a salty taste. This is one of the main reasons because most of people that have the habit of consume sodium chloride, salt to add salt to the foods, they can think on substitute it for the Salicornia. The taste will be quite similar and a smaller quantity of sodium. So, as well as the nutritional quality of fatty acids content, especially the polyunsaturated ones, in addition to all these benefits regarding their nutritional profile of minerals, vitamins, antioxidants, will enrich their nutritional profile and make Salicornia good options for making sour substitutes. So, apart of not intake sodium chloride, we have the similar taste and we will benefit from other bioactive components and other important and nutrients to the diet. And salicornia can be utilized as a functional food since it contains tabloids with bioactivities, as we have already mentioned. For example, the Salicornia brachiata plant possesses nutritional antioxidants, carboning activities, amino acids, flavonoids, essential fatty acids, and polyunsaturated fatty acids, making it a promising ideal plant that can be used as a functional food or as a dietary supplement in nutraceutical industries. These industries have already explored and are continuing to explore this possibility of making some kind of dietary supplements and nutraceuticals based on this siliconia. Here we have different ways of consuming cooked salicornia, and besides, of course, it can be eaten raw or as a green salad. We have the boiled in the top corner, in the right top corner, you can see boiled salicornia shoots mixed with cheese. So the employments to the food are diverse. We can use in pasta dishes, fish dishes. We can eat it as a salad. So different ways of consume this plant we can make, because we can use it as only as that function to give the salty taste to the food. If we think we use sodium or chloride sodium, you use it, at least in our perspective, in Western and European society, use it in everything, in soup, in fish, in meat, even in salads. We use the salt addition to give that salty taste that people like, that people enjoy. So, if we think we can also use this plant in all that dishes. So it is not strange to see some kind of examples of utilizations of this plant in preparations of meat, of food, of shellfish, in a salad, even in a soup. So are very diverse, and people may used to try it in very diverse dishes. Here you have the commercial cultivation of salicornia. In the left image, you can see the outdoor cultivation, flatbed with ripe irrigation, and on the other side, in the right image, you can see the indoor cultivation with hydroponics. So it can be, it depends the conditions we have. Despite of being very resistant, but of course there are optimal conditions for the cultivation. We can have different ways of cultivate this plant. This is another image that I took from this article. We have here the reference, the health biological effects of salicornia. A lot of this investigation and research have been made have been made in the last years regarding their biological effects, their health effects, their properties as a food product, because we are stimulating its consumption to the population, and population, at least European population, and particularly in Portugal, we are very interested in this plant. And one of the greatest challenge, I believe, it is their production, their mass production, because the price is not so accessible to all the people. That is one of the reasons why the consumption is not very high, at least in Portugal, is because the accessibility is not so easy. For example, compared with other even with other plants, even with other plants. But of course, in few time, I hope that can be surpassed. So here you have this image mentioning some of these biological effects found in the literature. I can highlight the prevention and attenuation of hypertension status. It is right the opposite that we find in the salt, in the addition of salt. So the salt will stimulate this happening, so will increase the possibility of get hypertension, and with the siliconia we are making right the opposite. It can have antimicrobial effect, so it can neuroprotective effects, so anti-cancer, so lot of health impacts, and already studied identified regarding the utilization of this plant. So, the role of siliconia as a good salt substitute is very promising. This is what research is telling us, and what we have learned from the last publications. It is quite sustainable as also an underutilized flora, and can form part of the human diet. It can also provide a source of income for growers, of course, if we need to cultivate it, if we need to start a large-scale production. This, of course, will bring work for the populations, the growers. The Salicornia species are rich in dietary bioactive components, low in sodium and high in protein and fiber, and can promote health. The saltwater tolerant plant also helps to improve water quality through remediation, and makes clean water available, which is essential for food processing and sanitation. And of course, there is a need to investigate the nanoparticles with antibacterial activities that found in this Salicornia species, especially in the brachiata. They will be useful in the food, pharmacy, and cosmetic industries. However, one of the major drawbacks of utilizing Salicornia is its non-perennial nature. It cannot be harvested all year round, at least at our current knowledge. Of course, we can think in some strategy to surpass this drawback. Like, of course, its counterpart genus Sarcocornia, that is a similar plant to Salicornia, but from a different genus, which is non-seasonal and can be supplied all year long. And sometimes, for this reason, the price of Sarcocornia species are lower than the Salicornia, and perhaps in some markets, some places you will find easier Sarcocornia plants than Salicornia. And they are very similar regarding their properties and regarding their content, chemical content, nutritional profile. But of course, we have to learn also about it. And here we have the example of the native range of Salicornia bigelovi that is in coastal salt marshes, where germinates in winter or spring and flowers in summer in response to the photo period. So as their period of being grown. So the plant senescence and shed seeds in the fall, and in order to overcome this challenge, efforts are being made to ensure the regular availability of siliconia plants with efficient growing techniques in the future can be an option. But of course, you have to see if the nutritional profile, the nutritional content is preserved, and of course, and then compare if these dried plants are also so interesting from this point of view compared with the fresh. Of course, there will be some differences, and one one possibility, I think, is if we have not the possibility to consume these Salicornia species fresh, why not opt for Sarcocornia plants? But I would like to ask you if you can find any other drawback regarding the consumption of Salicornia or Sarcocornia plants. Do you think that the only drawback is this regarding being a seasonal plant, and this will influence, of course, its utilization, availability, and perhaps the price? Because that I think we can surpass by consuming sarcoconia that are very similar. But a part of this negative aspect, do you think we have more? Let me know. Let me know your opinion.
Could I think because of its taste, like it is salty in nature, it cannot be consumed a lot
Yes, that's true.
because
But
of the flavor.
more. I was thinking also in another issue.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, in India, we use iodized salt for consumption because lack of iodine causes disease known as goiter. But as I read in the presentation, this species doesn't contain iodine, so I think this may be the issue.
Yes, you don't have a lot of iodine, but you can have other important elements as too, and you can have iodine in other ways. Yes, but also iodine in salt, you have to fortify it with iodine. It is not naturally present in the salt.
Yes, sir.
More more ideas.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, in one of your slide, you mentioned that salicornia does not induces hypertension, but
Yes.
salt does. So, sir, it is also having saline characteristics. So, is there any threshold value above which it can also cause hypertension if it is having a saline characteristics and salty nature? So, there is no threshold value above which it will cause hypertension.
Yes, the effects are quite the opposite regarding the consumption of salt or the consumption of salicornia. That is one of the I think, major positive aspects because salt will induce hypertension, and salicornia we see in some research that it can has a protective role in not only hypertension but cardiovascular diseases, and that can be a positive aspect. I was thinking in some negative aspect that I didn't focus here, but I don't know. If can you think?
Like salt, we can take 5 grams, less than 5 grams per day. So, is there any threshold value for the consumption of salicornia too, or not?
No, that it's not established.
Not mentioned. So,
No.
that it is also having saline characteristics. Would it not cause hypertension if there is no any threshold value that below this we have to consume it?
No, it's not. It has to be established. It has to be studied, but
Yes.
it is not established
Because
a limit for that.
because if it is having saline characteristics, then somewhere it can be the possible reason for hypertension also if we are consuming and we are not knowing that at what limit, at what threshold value we should use and have its uptake.
Yes.
So that's what I was
Yes.
asking about.
But another issue that I was not mentioned, if we think they are halophytes, and it will depend a lot of the soil where they will be cultivated. And regarding contamination, this is very important regarding food safety aspects, because in some cases, these plants will absorb and will have in their composition high contents of heavy metals that they will absorb from the soil. So it is very important to control and to monitor the soil conditions where these plants will grow, and pay a lot of attention of their content, especially in heavy metals, because it's not so rare to find some of these plants with high contents of heavy metals. So this is an important thing to highlight. So not everything is is wonderful. We can say a part of all these biological effects, protective effects, and it works very well as a salt substitute regarding also tasty properties and soil properties, but pay attention to food safety aspects, especially to the content of heavy metals, because it depends of the soil of the place where they are growing. We can have those issues, and also in the literature you find some papers related with this. So be careful. Of course, we cultivate them in a controlled environment, in a farm, like these pictures I showed. This is, in theory, this is controlled, but of course, most of these plants grow in nature, grow in wild. You have to see the conditions of the soil of the place where they are. So this is what I would like to tell you to pay attention regarding the consumption, especially when we are talking about wild plants.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, how could genetic or biotechnological approaches help improve siliconia yield and adaptability?
Yes, it can. It is a very important. It is a very important research field to see the also the metabolomics and other things. I think Dr. Rupert would be very happy to study also these plants, because it's at least for us. I don't know for you here in India if you have also traditional consumption of these plants and to incorporate these plants in your foods. But in Europe, in Portugal, this is quite new. So that knowledge is very limited in that aspect. So every studies we can do to bring more knowledge to us, it is important. It is very important, because this can change. You can find something even more positive, but of course you can find also some extra drawbacks regarding to it. So of course I agree. It's very it's very important that research field. Of course, I agree.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
So
afternoon.
my question is, how do the fatty acid and antioxidant profile of salicornia compare with the more common vegetables?
It will depend of the vegetables, of course, but it is in the line with that. The question here is avoid the consumption of salt with all the harmful effects on health it has, and you are eating a vegetable, a plant that antioxidant properties, bioactive components, and even a protective effect to hypertension. So that are a very stimulating reason to eat or try salicornia. And most of people who incorporated salicornia in their diets and their in traditional, even in traditional recipes, find that salty taste. So this is very important. We had a study in Portugal, similar to the seaweeds, that incorporate some amounts of salicornia to reduce the amount of salt added to the recipe, and the results of acceptance for the population was quite good. The problem here, at least in Portugal, we have, is that when you go to the market, to the supermarket, you don't find so easily this plant, and the prices are quite high, quite expensive when compared with other herbs, with other more traditional plants. That is the main, another and important, of course, drawback of its utilization. Its accessibility to the population. It is not so widespread as we wish, and of course, how to face this problem. to stimulate the cultivation, the production. I think that would be very important because I'm almost sure if we have this plant at similar price to other plants and available in the most of the supermarkets, people will buy. This is a very distinctive case compared with, for example, the insects. People will accept it for sure. Most of people, of course, not every people, but the most of the population will have no problems in incorporate this plant in their diets. Of course, they have to see it for sale, and of course, the price should be competitive compared with other options. But we are on its way.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, in your point of view, how Saliconia is different from the other halophytes?
From the other?
Halophytes, sir. Halophytes.
No, the problem is just being there. The allophats regarding the power to absorb what is in the soil where they grow, the contaminants. So, and the other allophats here, what I study is mainly Salicornia and Sarcocornia. They are very similar in their composition. The positive fact is that Sarcocornia we can have it almost all the year, and Salicornia is more seasonal plant. So, but regarding their utilization, they are quite similar. They are quite similar.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Macro. Without macro, impossible.
So then why are we not focusing on sarcopenia instead of focusing on saliconia?
Salicornia is more studied. Yes, that's one of the reasons. Sarcocornia, we are starting to study. If we see worldwide investigation, research technology is more is more focused on Salicornia. But now we are starting also to study Sarcocornia, and those first studies we find that we have a lot of similarities, similarities with Salicornia.
So if I understood it right, in the long term, in the future, if we were to do a marketing of this as a routine product, like we do it for stevia with respect to sugar, something like that.
Yes.
So then it would be better to focus on sarcoconia because it would be available throughout the year.
Sorry, I didn't understand this last.
If we were to do a marketing later and it has to become a routine product,
To become a routine product. Yes, that will depend the support, the stimulation also from some entities, the governments, to make this large scale production and bring work for the people, create the conditions to farm, to cultivate these plants. And perhaps you can see that it's easier to produce large scale sarcocornia than silicornia. In Portugal, for example, we have both at this moment. We have also some companies that are more keen to produce sarcocornia, to sell sarcocornia than silicornia. This is also on its way to see what is it is. It is a very quite new, even at least for us there in Portugal and for the industry. If we go to the supermarket, we don't see a lot of products, a lot of shops selling these plants. It is very quite new. We can say it's a new food like insects, like jellyfish, but it is a plant that there is no tradition, at least for us in Portugal, of utilization in the cuisine, in the as food.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sir, in your opinion, which one is better? Sarcoconia or Saliconia?
Very similar, very similar.
Both are very
For the
similar.
point of view, perhaps sarcocornia we can find lower prices, and that is an important issue because from the point of view of taste, Of course, the species will, even Salicornia species, if you have a Brachiata, or if we have by the law of the species, it can vary, and the place where it is cultivated, this will vary of the taste, of the power of the salty taste, this will vary, can vary significantly. So we cannot say Salicornia or Sarcocornia, because inside the genus of Salicornia we have differences, and also the same in Sarcocornia. But from the point of view and nutritional content are similar, but of course it depends the place where it's cultivated. This will affect all these aspects. But generally speaking, I can say I prefer this one or the other one.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir.
The main goal is that to seasoning the dish and to give the salty taste that most of people are looking for, and to reduce or even to exclude the salty addition. So that is one of the main goals, and if a part of that you can find some extra nutritional interesting properties, healthy effects, so fantastic.
So, as you said, there is no acceptance problem because it's a plant. So, can we replace salt from this species, like drying it, making it powder, and replace salt?
Yes, but with the drying this, the salty taste will be lost almost. So one of our flags to consume Salicornia, Sarcocornia can be lost. So we prefer to stimulate its consumption as a fresh plant. We can dry, and some of nutritional, but that's the question again. We can preserve the nutritional components, the effects, but why people will adding or utilize that. If the main reason for people is I can not adding salt, that's great, but I have another thing that will give me a similar sensation of salt, because people like the salty taste. If I add something that doesn't make that, I will need to add something to make that happen. So, and if I add salt and salicornia, sarcocornia, whatever, it doesn't bring the effect that I want, that is salt substitution. We are thinking on this plant mainly, not only, but mainly as a potential salt substitute.
So if it is like it loses its some characteristic after drying, then like what is the use? Because it's only available
From the
seasonally.
point
We
of view
can't
of
even
sensorial
preserve it.
properties, of course, we can preserve the chemical characteristics, we can preserve some of them, but sensorily speaking, it will be different.
Okay, thank you.
That is the main point. When we analyze chemically the plant, perhaps there will not be significant changes. But for the people that are consuming, the changes will be significantly, because the organoleptic, the sensorial differences, yes, they will be notable.
Uh, Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned that Salicornia is being seen as a plant of the future. I was wondering what really gives it that edge over other halophytes, and is it more about its nutritional profile or its adaptability to harsh conditions?
Well, I say that especially from my perspective and from our perspective in the research in Portugal, plant of the future. Because if we see hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and all the problems that become from the salt consumption, are the main causes of death. So if we can find something that avoid the salt utilization, and even give us some other benefits, some other health impacts, that bring some health impacts, that will be fantastic. So we can talk about the plant of the future on that perspective. Just for excluding the salt addition, that is a very, very great win for us. And if we can add some extra value from the point of view of nutrition, as you mentioned, the point of view of sensory attributes, so that is wonderful. The difficulty at this point is the large scale production and put the plant in the market accessible to the whole population. At this time is seen, at least in Portugal, not as a luxury product, but that with limited access to the population. We can find, if we go out dinner or have lunch, just specific restaurants utilize them to season the dishes. If we go to the supermarket, not all supermarkets have these plants, only some very specific supermarkets. The price is not it's not very expensive, of course, like caviar or like other things, but it is much more expensive than other plants, other herbs. So that is the challenge at this point. Make this plant with a reasonable price for the most of the population. If we achieve that point, then we can stimulate with other strength the population to its consumption. Because one of the problems is, okay, I want that you buy it, that you incorporate in your diet, and people say, and where can I buy it, and for what price? This is the main question. The people, the populations will not ask for their nutritional benefits, for their health. No. First, where can I buy it? If I have it near my house, near my place, where to buy it, I don't go 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers to buy a plant to cuisine. That I think that's obvious. And then the price. If I have to pay 5 euros per 100 grams of the plant, if I have others with less than 1 euro, the money has an important weight in the choices of everything, and of course, food choices are not exempt of that. So that is and of course, the research is important to continue because it is not so well studied, and regarding contamination, I think that is a very important topic, and also to study and to farm, to cultivate these plants, paying attention to that, because it can be serious problems if people consume wild plants. We can find also in Portugal some place we have wild of these plants, but be careful with its consumption. Thank you very much for question.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Not working.
Very good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
So my question is about the biomagnification of heavy metals.
Yes.
Magnification of heavy metals, like in which it will be more and why, like plant source, animal source, insect source.
In these particular plants are the main issue, yes, because they are alophytes and they will absorb everything from the soil. So the contamination of heavy metals, we have to be very careful. That's why it's important to have these farms with controlled conditions to cultivate the plants, because the wild plants I don't recommend at all for people that don't know very well the soil conditions, the environment conditions where the plant is grown. The same for the insects. You can't go outside and catch an insect and then use it as food. Very important to follow the specifications in the food legislation. Controlled farms with controlled conditions of their rearing, it is very important. And of course, some heavy metals can be found and are found. We will find also in the literature associated with insect consumption, more specifically in some areas of Africa and even Asia, that these insects are not consumed from those farms, are consumed directly from wild. So yes, we can have that kind of problems, and you find in the literature some episodes of contamination of insect food base, and also these plants regarding its consumption. Yes, it's a problem that we need to point out. When we are talking about this, we can't forget the food safety and contamination aspects, of course.
So, sir, my question is like in general, if we talk about plant source, insect source, and animal source, which has more contamination of heavy metals?
All of them can have. It depends the environment. It depends
We are taking a wild case. Like it's not grown in
These
controlled
plants
environment.
particular have a very high contamination.
Okay.
Probability, yes. If you can talk generally, yes. These plants, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for the truly fascinating presentation. The session gave us a fresh perspective on how nature offers innovative solutions to modern day nutritional and environmental challenges. You introduce us to the remarkable world of Salicornia species, plants that not only survive but thrive in saline environments. We learned how these halophytes, especially Salicornia bigelovi, Salicornia brachyta, and Salicornia herbaceosa, are rich in essential minerals, fiber, and bioactive compounds, making them excellent candidates as natural salt substitutes. To highlight further and to conclude the previous lecture, I would now like to invite Miss Ria on the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Riya Jain, and I will be giving a brief overview of this lecture. So, as we learned, Salicornia, including species like Salicornia bigelovi, Salicornia braccia, and Salicornia herbacea, are fascinating halophytic plants that naturally grow in saline and coastal regions around the world. What makes them so special in their exceptional ability to thrive in salty environments and where most crops can't survive? These plants have the part of traditional diets for centuries, eaten fresh, cooked, and fermented forms, and even used in folk medicines for ailments like obesity, diabetes, constipation, and cancer. In recent years, Salicornia has caught global attention not just as a food but as a functional food ingredient and a potential salt substitute, especially for people looking to reduce sodium intake. Nutritionally, Salicornia species are incredibly rich. They contain essential minerals, fibers, antioxidant and bioactive compounds, and phenolics. They also offer polyunsaturated fatty acids and a salty taste with much less sodium. This makes them an ideal ingredients for healthy diets as well as valuable raw materials for the cosmetic and nutraceutical industries. Research have shown that Salicornia plant salt can prevent hypertension and protect the liver and kidney compared to regular salt. So it's not only a flavor enhancer but also a potential health protector. Beyond food, Salicornia has multiple uses like its sealed yield high quality edible oil and the leftover biomass serve as an animal feed. However, there are still challenges. Salicornia's non-perennial, meaning it can't be harvested year-round like Sarcocornia. Researchers are now working on better drying and prevention techniques to ensure a steady supply. In conclusion, Salicornia truly stands out as plants of the future. Its ability to grow in harsh conditions, combined with its nutritional richness and health benefits, make it a promising crop for sustainable food system and economic development in saline-prone areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ria. I would once again thank Dr. Antonio Rapso for this wonderful lecture. Now, with that, we conclude the morning sessions. Let's take a break for lunch and continue our conversation informally over a meal. Please rejoin us at 2 p.m. sharp for the next session of the day. Now we move on to the last session of the day, a tutorial titled Classroom Discussion on Food Waste and Public Health, How Relevant is the food industry. We are honored to have Dr. Rapso with us, who will guide us through the critical topic. This session will be highly interactive, and I encourage everyone to share your thoughts, ask questions, and bring in your perspectives on the link between food waste, public health, and the role of food industry. Without further ado, let us invite Dr. Rapso to start the tutorial.
Good afternoon to everyone, and let's start this afternoon session by making this question: how relevant is the food industry, and for not only is the food industry, but for the food industry, this discussion about the food waste topic that we have already addressed here and discussed in the previous sessions. And I would like to know how do you think that the waste of food can be relevant for the food industry? And if we think, and as we have already mentioned, when we are talking about food wasting, we are talking about the waste of money, the waste of we are talking about economic losses. So this for the companies, for the food industry, is quite relevant for this reason. Not only, but mainly for this reason, because without economic profits, the companies can survive. So it is very very relevant, a part of the sustainability of the health issues and everything we have already talked here. But thinking on the food industry and companies, of course, the economical vision, it is also a very huge point to take into consideration. So, by analyzing what these researchers found on the literature, this is the results of the scoping review. What are the key messages to reduce waste in food-based dietary guidelines? What is more mentioned in the literature, in the reviewed studies that these researchers found? And the most papers talked and mention the plant meals. So if we adequate plant meals, maybe we can contribute to less food waste, to reduce this waste in food-based dietary guidelines. Then we have the use of leftovers and store food correctly. And then avoid overconsumption, excessive purchases, beware of the shelf life of the food products, and finally the use of imperfect produce, freeze food, and avoid impulse buying. So these are the main key messages we find regarding the reduced waste in food-based dietary guidelines, and we can find in the literature. Another study points out the 6 environment-friendly ways to food waste recycling activities, and they are the conversion of food scrap into biogas, the reuse of food packaging material, the compost kitchen and garden scrap, put your waste to work, creative use of leftovers, donate waste for animal feed. Well, I think all of these things we have already talked when we had the session about food waste. These were the 6 environment-friendly ways to food waste recycling activities, more specified in the literature, also in this review. And the key steps of designing and integrated food waste management system are also pointed for the same authors. So, education, public participations, and future perspectives. We can find out here some examples like the assessment and data collection, the stakeholder engagement. It is very important. The involvement of resource cover the monitoring and reporting, research and innovation, evaluation and continuous improvement, and of course the international collaboration. All of these steps are fundamental to manage this food waste and of course to avoid it as possible. Here we have some comparative analysis regarding the food waste valorization technologies, and you have this the biofuel production, biofertilizer production, animal feed production, and composting, and also the anaerobic digestion. I think we have already heard about this, and of course it depends the environment. It depends on the place and the type of waste we want to treat. We can apply these technologies to valorize our waste and not to discard totally what is generated with this food. These are another table regarding the stages of supply chain and sources of food waste with some examples. We have here the agricultural production. I can point out the example of the US. The crops like lettuce and broccoli are often left under harvested due to falling market prices, and in sub-Saharan Africa, loss is up to 50% to pests. This is an example of food that is wasted and dependent on the food we waste. And these are great challenges we have regarding the food insecurity, the biodiversity loss, the environmental impact, the resource wastage, the consumer related waste, the landfill overload, and the economic loss. So these are some challenges, and with practical solutions we have in this image, for example, regarding the environmental impact. We can think in the composting, we can think in the circular bioeconomy, regarding food insecurity, of course, food recovery programs to avoid this. When we talk about resource wastage, think on innovative packaging. We think on the circular bioeconomy as well. So we have to see where is the challenge, and then find the most proper solution. And of course, these are the most common and maybe the biggest problem related with food waste: the air, water, and soil pollution, the global warming and climate change that we are observing worldwide, the resource depletion, the poverty and hunger, the economic loss, the ethnic pollution, the other pollution. So if we think in all the problems, in all the drawbacks related with wasting food, we can see that this scenario is even more complex that we can imagine on in our daily actions, that we think that hasn't not a big impact on the world where we live. That is not true. The simple act of discard some food, waste some food, I think it is not you, it is not me that are wasting food. If we make the sum of the whole food that is wasted each meal, each day, by all of us, then we can see and we can relate it with these implications. Uh, Here is the case of one specific country and the implications of food waste generation on climate change, in the case of Greece. And here in this graphic we see the food waste composition, and it is separated by the type of food. And we can see, for example, here the tomato, it represents 18%. And for example, here we have starches like bread, rice, and noodles with an important value of food waste. This is the panorama of the food waste by food type. Of course, this will vary from country to country. This is the example of an European country, exactly Greece. We see that in this graphic we see a lot of vegetables that are discarded: cucumber, lettuce, tomato, banana peel, pineapple, melon, All of these are about 50%, and then in the other 50%, we have 25% correlated with bread, rice, and pasta noodles. So we should think on this. I go back and to remind you that the all food we waste, it could be served to feed up people that have no chances, have no possibilities to get access to the basic foods, to staple foods in the a lot of countries. So when we are wasting food, we are taking off the opportunity of a child, of a woman, of a man to get the possibility to survive if we think well and reflect on that. And this is the food waste generation status in different countries. I uh, uh, I get this information from these websites, and this is related to the year of 2023. And these data are annual per capita household food waste of selected countries worldwide as of 2020. So this data is about 5 years, and here I identified the countries that the total food waste per year are, are bigger, and we see in front we have India and China. Of course, this is also related with the number of people in these countries have, the total of inhabitants. However, we see also in other countries with high populations with less food waste. You can see also Mexico, the US, but we should think that how can we do not only as researchers, not only as health professionals or food scientists or what else, but in our daily lives as common citizens integrated in a country, in a community. What can we do to change this? Because if we are wasting food, and this is synonymous that we have that food. So why we are not using the food properly? But in the other way, in the same places, we have people dying because they don't have access to food. So this is a paradox that we should find some reasons and find some explanations, and then of course some strategies to fight, to combat, to change this scenario, because it is on our hands. It's on our hands as citizens to change this, to educate people not to waste food when we are shopping, not overconsumption, not to buy unnecessary, when we are harvesting those foods and then to prepare, and then when we are going to the table and to eat, not discard food, and educate our children with that since very early in their lives, not discard food, because that could be very useful for another child that has no access to food, and perhaps he will be die because of that. And it would be a very huge challenge to see in another 5 or 10 years make this analysis and see how it will be. Of course, these programs are not easy to implement. These results will not change one day to the other, but we must start to do something different. We must start to do something innovative also in this aspect, to change the things, because of course the natural resources are limited, the worldwide population is growing, but we are wasting food. If we see these charts, and if we conclude that we are not wasting food, and the reason that people are dying for hunger and stunt is because there is no food, that would be another problem. But the question is, people are dying because they don't have the food for one side, and in the other side we see this. we see these data, we see these results. So what to do, what the ideas can we have, how can the food industry, the sector, on their lives, on their daily lives, in their routines, can make something different, can implement something new and different to achieve different results of this one. This is not a problem of India. This is not a problem of China. This is a worldwide huge problem. Of course, you have these values because see the size of these countries, see the number of inhabitants of these countries. But all the countries worldwide have this problem of food waste. And this should be thinking, of course, together. And now, please let me know your ideas, your point of view regarding this and what to do. And this is also a concern of public health. Okay, this food insecurity, this all these problems we have here regarding with food waste. What to do to mitigate this, and what strategies, which strategies we can think to adopt, to implement, to reduce this waste of food and consequently these problems that become from this food wasting. Please let me know. Let me know what you think and your ideas, your about this topic. We have already discussed a little on the previous session about food waste. We have yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, but we have your opportunity to discuss further this issue.
So in the last slide that you showed, where the maximum is China and India in terms of food waste, that is food grains, it's a household waste, and it's mentioned as 68.75 million metric tons per year. But if we look at it per day, then it comes to almost it is very high. If we
Yes.
calculate that per day, because it's annual per capita household food waste
Yes.
68.75 if we look at India.
Food waste, yes. Per year, yes. Yes.
So isn't that it's too much? 68.75 million metric tons per year, which would be almost 0.18 million metric ton per day.
The data are per year, okay? Yes, you can make then the division per day, yes, of course. But the total country, yes? Yes, and how to reduce this? The question is how to mitigate it. Yes, these values are not per day, okay? This is per year. Per year. It is not easy to find the perfect solution for this. If it was easy, we are not here discussing it. Of course, if someone knows the best way to solve this big issue, we will not.
First thing we
Yes,
First
please.
thing we can do is we can utilize the peel,
The
peel, onion peel, tomato peel, outer
peel.
covering.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I understand it.
Outer covering of the fruit or vegetables, we can utilize it.
Of course, that is one of the ways. Yes.
Another thing we can use is we can reduce the wastage by making proper storage and making transportation more feasible.
Yes, yes. All of that things we have already mentioned, have already talked, and I will say again, for me, one of the most important things, and then we should relate this food waste if there is any relationship with the education level of the populations. Because I think that more than the strategies or more than actions like that you mentioned is the education of the people. Education not needed to adopt that kind of actions daily. And it is very important that the teach them to take these actions daily in their lives to and not only the adults the children in schools think that small actions in their daily lives can change the world because that is the truth. This is not poetry. This is the real truth. And we need to talk. We need to communicate to the populations and to pass our message in the best way we can. Because there are a lot of strategies, there are a lot of actions, but the knowledge must be transferred to the community, to the population. It is not only good. We have the knowledge for us, for scientists, for no. There are more citizens then we are also citizens, but you understand there are more common citizens, as we can talk about that, than food scientists, than academics. So our goal is to communicate this message, this how to do these actions in the routines of the people, to adapt these actions to their daily lives and see if they indeed have any problem in put in practice this. This is I think the most the greater challenges because this the use of leftovers, the recovery of the food. We know that, but we have to teach people how can they do that and very simple things that they can freeze food, not to buy too much food that then they will lost money because they are spending money in food that they will not consume or will consume in not good conditions and that can be even harmful or will be discarded. So not to buy more than the needed, to harvest in proper conditions the food, to make some intelligent use of the leftovers. All of this must be explained and sometimes adapted to the family context, to the people, to where they live, if they live in a rural area or if they live in a city. So all of this must be taken in consideration, and it's very important our role in the communities to mitigate this very very huge problem. Of course, in countries like China, like India, we have a very 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 large population, lot of people, and very big, very massive rural area. This work is even more challenged, but it is very important to do because we will see an improvement of the economy. We will see an improvement of more food sources. The benefits of waste less food will be very, very, very significant. We will have less people suffering from undernourishment, from hunger. We will have less deaths directly related with this issue. So, of course, once again, this is not from one day to another. We have to think on strategies, the implementation of some programs to be more close to the schools, the communities, to but we must start from somewhere, and we should go join to the policymakers, to the people that are in charge in the governments with this data. See, we have our economy state is this. However, we are throwing to the trash this money, this food, because if we talk in food, maybe the governments, the policymakers, will not pay so much attention. But if we say we are throwing money to the trash, they perhaps will think a little bit and reflect, and maybe they will be interested in seeing how can we not spend so much money for nothing. So if we can make some kind of an investment in a program to make these results, this data being different, and see that they can earn money, all of us can earn money, and of course help with this. I think that can be one of the ways convince those who can support these programs, these actions to make them a reality, and then of course make the work in the field, in the joints with all the stakeholders, all the industries, the companies, because this has interest for everyone in very different aspects, not only the health, not only the human lives, but also the economic. And believe me, some parts are more interested in the economic side than in the health of people. Unfortunately, this is the truth. This is the reality in our world. But if we can take advantage on this, why not?
Yes, sir. I would like to add one more thing to this. We can promote local people to consume local food products that are consumed or produced in that particular area, like
Yes,
local vegetables, local fruits that are
of
grown in that
course,
particular area, so that we can reduce the transportation cost and
of course.
wastage that occurs during the transportation.
Of course, totally agree. That is another action that we can once again explain the people why, and then not only do this. It is important when you say you are teaching the people, you do this because of this, and that explanation, I think, it's very clear. Of course, if you consume local food products, first the flavor and the taste, all the sensorial properties will be different, and we reduce the costs related with transportation. All of that aspects, if well explained to the people, will consume, and that we want will consume more local products and not a similar product that comes from the other part of the world. Maybe we have a change on their behavior. And of course,
Thank you, sir.
all of that actions that and behaviors we want that people change, we need to explain very well, and of course in different languages. It depends on our audience, but yes, very very relevant. Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir.
thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
So basically, what I think is the mindset behind food wastage. Like for
Yes,
example, you take an example that if a stick of butter, it's for almost $4 to $5, for example. So even if it goes to waste, we won't think that how much hours it went through the churning process or how long it took for the butter to which was to be made for a consumer. He'll only think that the price. He'll only think from the price tag of point of view that it was just for a $4 and it doesn't matter if it goes to waste also. So all
yes,
that lies behind is
but it
the
depends. But it depends, and once again, we have to educate the population and explain the population that it is not only the money related with the food waste. Perhaps for some people, the money it is the only thing that matters, but it should not be. So that is important to know. Once again, the audience where we are talking, where we are make our actions and teachings, because it is not only the money. It is not only for this is not so expensive, so no problem if we discard this. For some people, I believe they think on that. So we buy more than we need. It's better. I buy more if I don't need, go to the trash. But it is also our goal to change the mind of that people, because the butter, the fruit, the vegetable, everything that I will not consume and I will discard with no utilization, that could serve to save a human being life. So make people think from the other way. It doesn't matter if you have money or not to buy the triple of food that you can, because we have very disparities in this world. People, of course, that don't have economic power, don't have money, but of course we have others that have money that they can't count even their money. So it is not a problem to buy tons of food and to discard tons of food. But this is not a question of money. It is important to explain and to point out this. We are talking about human's life. And daily, with the distribution of food and how this is working, we have people dying because simply they don't have access to food. And we have these million tons of food waste worldwide. So it is not a question of I have money or I don't have money to buy. Not only that, okay? Okay,
Okay, sir.
it's important to highlight. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Sir, my question is,
Interested on this because if they don't waste food, they don't waste money. Company is more environmentally friendly, so they are one of all of us should be interested. But the food companies and they need, and if they discard with making no money with what they produce, they will lose money. In the meals you will prepare for you and for your family. So, of course, in the food industries and the food companies, they are much more conscious about this, and at least from my experience, they are the first ones who are looking for to the various different ways to not waste the foods. So it depends on the food industry. It depends and to apply measures to then produce more than what they need. And not only for the sustainable reasons, okay, but for the economical reasons.
yes, sir. In the how nutritional losses from wasted food affects the community health outcomes?
Affects community?
Community health outcomes.
Okay, I think the community.
So could you please explain how nutritional losses from wasted food affects the community health outcomes?
I didn't understand last word. Community? What?
Community health outcomes.
Ah, community health outcomes. Ah, okay, okay, I understand. Anyone who wants to answer? I think this is very clear. Anyone has any idea about this? So, if you have nutritional losses, how can this be reflected in the community health outcomes?
Nutritional deficiencies will be more common.
Of course. Why? Which the needs of the population, and of course this can be also reflected in the deficiencies and the people cannot afford it. Yes, yes, I think
To accomplish that, we need to add more supplements to the community. We have to add. It will cost more. Like it will be the
yes,
addition.
I think we should reflect on that. The food supplements and that it's not something that should be natural. And if you go to the definition of food supplement, it is for special needs in special occasions that people can't accomplish their needs. But in theory, and I repeat, for a healthy population, they can accomplish that with normal food. And it is no sense we are discarding food and then think on food supplementation or what else. The problem is not waste food because we are wasting food, we are wasting money, and then we are paying money to design or to get food supplementation. That is not waste food. If you not waste food, perhaps you will not we will not have that health outcome related with nutrition deficiencies. It's more or less like that. But that's my point of view, of course.
So my question is that how can food industry balance the profit making with ethical responsibility towards reducing the food waste?
The responsibility of the food industry to reduce food waste, of course, because they are producers of the food. If they discard food, it will be in a very wide scale, a larger scale than in our homes. But of course, if we join all together, we are more than the food industry. Okay, but of course, they have a relevant role on that. But as I said before, they will be very conscious, and at this moment they are very conscious. So it's a different vision compared with us waste food. But as I said, I don't know how it is here. In most of the scenario is quite different because the impact is not so well seen. In the food industry, because the scale production is very, very, very little compared, of course, with the food industries.
So there is one more question that
Become the people involved on that to teach the people. Yes, all of that matters that we have talked here, the recovery, the recycling. Yes,
Nutrients are more affected.
it depends, but of course, some vitamins are very, very, very easily to be.
If we talk about fruits and vegetables, then which vitamins will be more
Europe, Portugal, but we have access to it. And not only fruits, vegetables, and make a comparison, for example, with the same fruits, but that was not moved from their natural habitat, from the natural continent, we see differences. And if we see, for example, in Portugal, a banana that comes from Costa Rica, from Colombia, from Ecuador, and we see differences, but that is normal. Even if you have a very good transportation, reasons that we must stimulate people to consume local and fresh products.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Nations have this problem. I think it's not, of course, some nations that are under development or have more stronger will be bigger, but in Portugal, a small country in Europe, of course, we feel the impact. Poor people in Portugal and countries similar to Portugal that has impossibilities to buy problem. Not this is exclusive problem of countries like India, like China. No, no.
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So my question is, what lessons can developing countries learn from global best practices in
Specific measures are only measures for underdeveloped countries. No, it of course we problems of food waste in restaurants, for example, in Portugal, in canteens, in social canteens in Portugal, in
Also, we should donate the food. Like in India, we have major festivity like marriage, so a lot of food is produced during that. And also,
of natural biofilm that has some protect action and be involved in that food and that new food. That's an example. More. Another example.
so biofertilizers.
Biofertilizers, yes, more. I think that one of you say also an example that was part of of his investigation.
This answer is your second.
Yes, but I want to go to the second. I want that you. I know that. Yes, yes, but I prefer this. I want what you think.
Your second.
For example, the biofuel, the biogas is another.
Last slide, sir, please. So
This.
no, no. Yes, so just like drug delivery, yeah, different
And
types
is
of.
that cost effectively?
Yeah, definitely, sir.
Yes.
People are working on that right now. So it is also cost effective, and we reduce the food waste.
Yes, because if it is very well, that is another thing we have to think, because we can have a good idea and that can be possible, but then we see the cost and not so lucrative.
One of the my paper also doing this types of work. So in this we also work in biofuel, making a biofuel,
Yes.
and this is also cost effective.
Okay, okay. So that is fantastic and a nice and another possibility. Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you, sir.
That is in sometimes one of the main issues. We see that that technology, that process, that could work well, but regarding its cost effectiveness, it's not so affordable. So, but if so,
In India, most of the IITs and ITs working these types of things also in recent 4 to 5 years also. So maybe one decade, this is the we can reduce these types of
yes,
food,
yes,
food waste.
yes, yes. That's important. That is important. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your sharing.
Like one of the main strategies we can work on to food waste composition, or maybe they are working, which is in process, that when we think from the meat industry point of view, the leftovers from meat industries, they have been used with the aquaculture types. Like when we talk about the waste, for example, bones. So when they are crushed, they are used in the eel farmings as a source of food. So that's what I've observed, that
Okay.
there are some outcomes from food waste also, like which has been in the progress these current years. So that's what I
Okay.
so that's what I want to tell.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes. Thank you for your sharing.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, in your opinion, what strategy can household adopt to reduce food waste?
In which environment?
Have which strategy we can adopt?
Strategy.
Yes,
But
sir.
in which context? That is
Household.
at home level, at kitchen. We have already discussed a lot of that. Can I will pose the question again to the audience to see if you are. How is your level of attention? Your colleague is anxious to answer you. On the back. What do you think? What can we do daily in our kitchens, in our routines, in our daily life to reduce the food waste? This is a question that can summarize all what are we talking here, discussing here. So, who wants to give the
We want that the food waste is converted into compost. In that way we can educate the people by running the campaigns over the village peoples like that, and we know the value of the food. And we also, and one more thing I tell, the last one, the rule is buy what you need and cook what you eat, and compost what is waste.
yes, and finally to communicate this message properly to your audience. And if even with those key messages you state, even if so, the people will have leftovers, what to do? This is the part of reuse. And how will you, a practical example of reuse that waste or leftovers? Not calling waste because waste is when you discard, but how will you use the leftovers of what you produced in excess in your kitchen?
Actually, the left we can preserve the freezer. Preserve the food
One
as a freeze.
possibility to freeze and to eat them
Yes,
in the next meal. Yes,
yes, sir.
and more. Only that.
How I will
Another solution if you don't want to eat in the next meal because I don't want it.
be honest.
You can give to the animals, feed the animals. You can give to another person to
Yes,
eat. But of course, this will depend of the context.
yes, sir.
And if we are talking about, for example, a canteen, a restaurant, they have a great amount of leftovers. They can make some collaboration with some charity institutionals and give them these leftovers and not discard them. So this thinking on the context on what you have, you can have very different solutions. So
Also introduce the small plate or half plate of in restaurants to reduce the plate waste.
yes, yes, but that especially in canteens that can be in social canteens in some contexts that can work. But of course, in restaurants that people go there and will pay their meal, you can reduce the portion for one day to another for an half, but because people will complain, will ask, "What is this?" Is what we have discussed before. People have no problems in paying to have the double of food they need, and if it is necessary, they will leave the excess in the plate and discard. We have to think is in measures, at least in the first moment, how to use that excess of food. But of course, in the long term, to think in adequate those portions, even in those kind of establishments. Yes, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Where? Ah, here. I was looking for.
One more thing we can do.
Yes.
In Hindu custom, one rituals not it is not a compulsory. One day fast in every week.
One day fast in every week.
Yes, yes. If you do this types
On
of
that day, you will not waste food.
yeah, that day, if you not prepare food, that is no waste food. So we can start fast.
And if
every
you
day.
fast 7 days per week, perfect. I have a professor that saying if you start to make photosynthesis like a plant, that will be perfect. You will see that you will not get fat. You will not waste food, nothing. Only the sun, water, and
Actually,
I'm joking, but of course.
no, but in our customs,
Yes.
people starting fast.
Yes, yes, yes. I know, I know.
Age specific some types of.
Yes.
So we can do one day fast. That is also good.
Yes, yes. If
If
it's
one
good.
day Indian all peoples are
But
one day
that
fast.
will not work, I believe, for every people.
20%.
Yes.
Yeah, 10% is too much, no? If we are
Yes.
60 here, if one
Yes,
day
but once again, that will depend on the culture, on the tradition, on the customs of the population, and of course, it can work very well in some place, but in the others, for example, if you go with that idea to my country and you tell me to make one day fast, I will not do it,
but
and I don't care.
but this
And end of discussion. It can be wonderful. You see that, but these differences are important to take into consideration because this can be very effective in some places, in some cultures, and the others no. That is also because, and I was telling, for example, in Lisbon we have a lot of Indian restaurants, but the Indian food there nothing to do with this because what would happen if I bring the exactly food of Indian there to Lisbon and open an Indian restaurant. Perhaps it will not have so much success. People can't eat, for example, the spices, and the restaurant will not survive too much long. So it is important to know the target, the target community, the target people, and of course make the passions, and then to ask the people the impossible. If you ask the impossible, we will not, you will have nothing. So this knowledge of the target populations is very, very, very relevant. But of course, if you are in an environment, in a community that has some kind of behaves, you can. It's like the insects we talked in this morning. If you have in a country some regions that already have tradition to prepare to consume as food is easier than to convince or to say to the others, let's try to make this because we can have some benefit. But in a country, in a place that no one no one see that as a possibility, and even are related to something harmful, something bad, it is even more difficult. This is important to take into consideration when we are planning to change minds, to change routines, to change habits, whatever is the final goal. But when you are trying to enter in the mind of the people, in their behaviors, and to change them, you have to learn about them, about their way of thinking, and what influences their actions. You can. It is impossible. You will not have good results if you only say people do this or do another thing. That is very important to take into consideration when you are planning some strategies, some programs, some plans to make people change their routines.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
My question is how food waste connect to global hunger and insecurity.
Very related. Who wants to answer? Another issue we have already discussed here, not only in one session, but more than in one session. How food waste can be related with food hunger and food insecurity. Not food hunger, with anger and food insecurity. I hope that everybody in this room can answer that. Don't disappoint me. Another, a new one to make an intervention and answer the colleague. A very clear question and a very clear point that must be in your mind at this point. How can you relate it? Another one, a new voice.
It's an obvious question. Like if the food is wasted, food scarcity is occurring, food hunger is occurring, so it is leading to the insecurity of the food.
Yes, and it is where one thing that we can start and to explain to other people why you are wasting food when you have people dying of hunger, dying
So, sir,
of
that is
stuff.
like we can't enter into everyone's mind now. Like as the discussion has been to this end, we have understood that food reducing the food wastage is a bit impossible right now because saying everyone, educating everyone at point to point, door to door has become a huge challenge now. So rather than reducing, now we can focus on waste management itself because reducing we are saying like everybody only take the food which you will be able to eat in the plate, but nobody is listening. Everybody are doing. So going door to door saying everyone.
No, we want that people change their behaviors in the daily life, so we can reduce the food waste
So that's
by
exactly as you
pushing
said.
by pushing a button. You have to change the behaviors. You have to change minds to make their actions become different, and then the food waste or not will be the result.
Yes, same
of that
example.
change.
You decline like to take one day fast. Everybody will like decline their mentality. We can't change them.
Yes, yes, yes. But
So it's
you have
better to
find
focus on waste
because
management.
you have to find the right strategy for that community and what can work in your community. It is not certain that will work in my community. If I don't want to make fast, but perhaps I can make food reutilization. Just an example.
That's what I'm saying, sir. Like, as there is custom of one day fast, we also have a custom of 30 days fast, in which we eat one day like only a meal. But it's like we'll say how you eat only one meal, right? So eat it simple, but it's not true. In ancient Asian days, they used to eat simple food, but nowadays they'll be okay. I'm not eating from morning, right? I'm eating only one meal. Let me make it luxurious. So wastage is increasing.
Yes, it's not simple. It's not simple at all. And entering the mind of people, it's difficult.
Exactly, sir. So it's like.
And sometimes people say one thing, but think
They won't
and
do.
do another. Yes, yes. And that is the problem. That is the problem.
So now rather than focusing on reducing the waste, okay, the waste is producing. Let us manage that waste.
Yes, and the results of food wasting we will not see for one day to another. It is not immediately. That will be the result of changing of behaviors and actions that take time and take time to enter in the minds of people and make them really change, and not to change one day or one morning because they heard that in the radio, in television, or what else, or because one person told them to do it. No, they must change because they feel that is more appropriate for their lives, and this is not very easy. This is for sure. This is very complicated to make these changes in the people's lives.
So then if we compare past and future, the past people, like our grandfathers, grandfather, they don't waste food. As the like education is going forward, we are
Education
wasting
and
food.
the world that they live when they were child were totally different from ours, and the food access was totally different. And globalization, they didn't have that globalization. Everything is different. Everything is different, and for sure, for most of them, this is quite strange. Our living times. Of course, of course. And perhaps our grandsons will be totally
Yeah,
different
exactly.
as well.
They say that don't waste food, but we are like, okay, fine. So
Yes, 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 yes. So the world is always changing. Always
day by
changing.
day it's increasing. We are getting more educated. Like actually the mind is going low.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. No more questions? One more question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I just wanted to give a suggestion like, can we go to supplementation rather than making preparing or
Can we go? Can we go to
supplementation? Like, we can,
supplementation?
yeah.
No, as I think there already was a similar question. What is food supplementation? The definition. We can correlate food supplementation with food waste and the absence of nutritional needs. I don't know if your question is related to that, but food supplementation is when a person can accomplish their nutritional needs according to their normal diet. And here, when we are talking about food waste, is when we are discarding food, and some people has no access to food, and other are discarding food, are wasting food. So the relation between food supplementation and food waste, I don't know. I have difficulties in establishing. But I think this question was already made by someone earlier.
So, like, if we have leftover food, like, or we have prepared something extra, like in my home, my mother, if extra rice is prepared, we can make new recipe out of it. And
Yes.
if we have stale bread, like, also then she make new thing out of it. So we can do this also in order to reduce the wastage of food.
Yes, that is one right. The education is very very important. If, for example, all parents say to the children when go to the table and you have to eat everything you have in the plate. If not, you can't go out of the table. One meal, another meal, and every day, they of course will learn the importance of food waste. But this doesn't happen in every family. If you go to a restaurant or to a party or what else, and you put in your meal more food than the food you will eat, you should do that. Everything you put on your plate, you have to eat. So, but this is once again the education and how important more than the other actions. If people is properly educated in this sense, in this way, I believe that the numbers of food waste would also reduce. Yes, that's very important. Thank you. Thank you for your sharing. Yes.
Sir, how does consumer behavior relate to food wastage?
It depends of the consumers. It depends on the country. Depends of the context. A lot of variables. One are more. It's like the neophobic scales. One are more neophobic. Others are more neophilic. Others are neutral. We have consumers that accept more. Others not so well. Others it will depends. We have no two people equal, and no two equal cultures and traditional customs. So it will varies a lot in that sense. You can establish a common trace in for all the consumers, but we have to take into consideration that variation. That for sure.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So my question is, how does food waste at different stages of the supply chain can affect the public health and nutrition outcomes globally?
Once again, I think we are repeating the same the same issues. I enjoy very much your interventions, but I think I can put you together. Speak. Who wants to give one more question to an answer to this question? I send back the question to you. Tell me. I believe all of you must know the answer to this. Another voice. I need to hear another voice. Everybody have already a new people, a new person, a new intervention.
How does food waste at different stages of the supply chain can affect the public health and nutrition outcomes globally?
So let's answer. Well,
Like when we talk about different stages, at different stages. So the more processed the food is, the more loss we'll see. For example, for a highly processed food, when you talk about, for example, McD's or McDonald's, or a hamburger, you'll find the nutrients are more lost compared to the nutrients found. More saturated fats we'll see compared to the ones which were actually added, which were present in the food.
And of course, we will have very variables that will depend and make this different. Of course, the process. We have different process. We have different foods, and one are more difficult to us, and others not. Of course, this it is hard to make an answer as a global because the food varies so much, and also the process technologies. We have so different process technologies. It is impossible, in my point of view, to make a global answer or a global explanation to all. But of course, it will have very high implications in the. You have already talked in the nutritional deficiencies, in the health impact that this can has in the people, because if we are wasting food, people can't access to food, will get anger or stunt, and will have a lot of problems related to that. So you have already talked about that, I think, here in this session. Thank you.
Like what I think is when we talk about food wastage, it also we have to see the level of like it depends from community to community. So like for example, if we talk about the
Yes, and different types of food once again.
exactly like for example, if an elite class is there, for example, when you take that some sort of parties were going on, kind of huge amount of food wastage was generated. It doesn't mean that it will go end to end towards the ones which were hungry.
Yes,
It will end
yes,
up in the landfills basically.
yes, of course. Yes.
So that's one of the major difference which I see when we relate the food wastage with hunger.
With anger,
So
yes.
it's not always related with the community which is hungry or the ones which are fulfilled.
Any more question?
Thank you. That's all, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for an engaging and insightful tutorial. I think everyone enjoyed here a lot. As we come to the close of today's engaging sessions under the GIAN program, let's take a quick recap of the insightful lectures we have had. Our first lecture, Insects as Food, opened a fascinating discussion on entomophagy, the practice of eating insects, highlighting their immense nutritional benefits, environmental sustainability, and potential role in ensuring global food security. We also explored the concept of food neophobia, the fear of trying new foods, and how consumer perception continues to shape the acceptance of insect based foods, especially in Western societies. The session emphasized the need for safety regulations, consumer education, and innovative marketing strategies to make insect based food more mainstream in the future. In the second lecture, we delved into the world of Salicornia species, known as promising helophytic plants. These salt tolerant species were presented as potential plants of the future due to their remarkable nutritional value, biotic compounds, and use of salt substitutes. The talk also shed light on their applications in the cosmetic, nutraceutical, and functional food industries, their sustainability in saline environments, and their potential contribution to improving food security and environmental health. Finally, our third session encouraged active participation through a classroom discussion on food waste and public health, examining the role of food industry in addressing this global issue. Together, we discussed the environmental, economic, and social impacts of food waste, reviewed innovative waste valorization technologies, and shared thoughts on sustainable solutions that can convert waste into resources, contributing to a circular, healthier food system. Overall, today's sessions have offered a holistic understanding of future forward food systems, from alternative protein sources and helophyte crops to sustainable consumption and waste management. With that, we officially conclude first this day's proceedings. Now, as you all remember, yesterday we had a very insightful lecture by Dr. Rupesh Deshmukh on biofortification, where we explored how this approach can play a vital role in improving the nutritional quality of our food crops. So, after a tea break, we will be having a visit to his lab where you will be able to observe the ongoing work and gain a clearer picture of the scientific efforts behind biofortified crops. So, let's make the most of this learning. Thank you so much and happy evening.